Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. We're in Puerh city in my tea shop. I'm trying this new setup and I hadn't live streamed for a long time, for a couple of months, so I had to pick up my gear and update some software, so hopefully it will work well. I hope you can hear me well. I have a new microphone which I've been using for my latest videos. I think it's slightly better. So we're going to start, so you can see I have displayed all the cakes that we've released this year here, and we can talk about them. I'm going to start with the Huazhuliangzi cake. This is a cake from northern Monghai, close to Naka, so it's Mongsong area. It's the highest altitude area in Xishuangbanna. And this one comes from Bamong village, which is on Huazhuliangzi. So Huazhuliangzi is the name of the mountain, the highest mountain of Xishuangbanna. And so I think the altitude must be 2,200 meters, something like that, for this team. Can you just maybe tell me in the comments? Okay, great. Hi everyone. I'm happy that so many of you are joining. There are 44 people now. So yeah, let's have a look at this cake. And unfortunately, just like every spring harvest, everything is a bit rushed because we need to finish the tea in Jingmai, then we start gathering all the teas from all the mountains, the tea producers. This year we'll have about 20 different cakes. I've released 12 of them on the website now, and we will do another release next month. I think it's better because it makes it easier for you, and anyway not all the teas have been pressed. Like my friend at the pressing factory just collected some tea from Laos and from Jingu today, so they're going to be pressed in a couple of days. We'll let them rest. And yeah, the problem with having to deal with so many mountains is you don't really have the proper time to taste them thoroughly before the release, or at least I can taste them and taste that they are okay, but we need to taste them many more times in order to get the general feel of the area. So this is especially true for the areas which we haven't featured a lot before. So that Huazhuliangzi, I think we had a cake in 2021 of this area. And yeah, you can see the leaves look pretty good. Quite a lot of Huangpian actually. Yeah, that's surprising. Why didn't they sort them better? But anyway, it's okay. It's no big deal. The leaves there are quite small, or you could say like medium small, a bit like Jingmai. They look a bit smaller than Jingmai. So that's what I have in my Gaiwan now. So we can try this, and we can try this because I would like actually to taste 3 different teas today. So that will be the Huazhuliangzi and the Changyuan. So it's another area which we featured in autumn. So we're not very familiar with this one. It's the first example of spring tea that we had. We tried the spring tea from last year. They got us samples. But it's still pretty new. Of course, I've tried it a couple of times, but I'd like to compare this one, so the Changyuan with the Huazhuliangzi, and with the Baka, because so Baka is in Mengku. It's very close to Bingdao village in the north of Mengku. And these 3 teas come from a pretty high altitude, and they have quite an emphasis on the aroma. You know, generally I don't favor aroma that much, but in this case, really, it's still nice to have that vibrant tea that gives you both in the nose and in the mouth. So in any way, in all the tea we source, the important thing is the mouthfeel. But sometimes it can be like the cherry on top, you know, to get that extra high altitude aroma. Because I think aroma is mainly related to altitude. The higher the altitude, the higher pitched the fragrance is. At least that's my experience. So all the teas are still very green, and they've been out of the pressing factory for about a week now, so they still have to recover from the pressing, because you know that there's a steaming step to soften the leaves, and then they are dried in the oven, typically at low temperature, but it still has an effect on the tea. And so it takes about a month really for the tea to recover. So when it's just right out of the tea factory, it can have a bit of a green tea taste. Although if low temperature was used, it shouldn't be too big of a difference. But yeah, so let's try this one. At least it doesn't have that green tea taste. I've tried it a couple of times already, but today I would like to try it along with the two other teas, the Baka and the Changyuan. So the opening is slightly smoky. That's interesting, huh? Because I noticed the same thing in the Bakanoi tea, and even in it's just some kind of natural taste that you could find in Monghai area, a fragrance, a bit animal fragrance. And it has a medium bitterness, but this bitterness is of a different type than the Laoman bitterness. It's less powerful, but it's shorter lived, I would say. And at this step, the soup is still quite soft, and you know I like strong tea, so I'm going to brew it a bit stronger. Interesting how green the leaves are now. So you can see this tea was processed on the green side, but I think it's fine. That's the kind of tea processing I like. And I think it won't really hinder its aging, its ability to age, really. You might think that maybe a larger percentage of the enzymes are destroyed when you give a strong saching, and so that might slow down the aging a bit, but it won't compromise it. It would actually, if there was too much saching, then you would have that green tea characteristic with a very soft and sweet tea with a green tea fragrance, and in that case you would see, you would taste like the mouthfeel getting weaker and weaker over the months. But it's not going to happen for this tea. And now the viscosity starts to build up. Really, this one is a bit more viscous than the first one. So let me just check. So Naka Big Trees, no, I don't think we will release Naka Big Trees this year, because we have the Huazhuliangzi. And honestly, well, yeah, I'd need to take another trip to Naka and maybe find another producer, because I feel like the Huazhuliangzi tea from Bamong has more to offer than Naka, but maybe Naka has a better aroma, you could say. And Huazhuliangzi has more of that short-lived bitterness that I was just talking about. And it's a bitterness that's quite unique, I think, to Mongsong area, to northern Monghai. So, yeah, I don't think we'll make a Naka big tree this spring, but maybe in autumn. There are still teas that we might purchase, some spring tea, maybe some Aonama, which I haven't purchased yet this year. We'll see once all the teas we have come out of the factory. The thing is, I try to have, ideally, each tea would be unique and wouldn't be comparable to another tea. Now, at least you could think that you can have the same tasting profile at different price points. And that's what I tried to do with the Huazhuliangzi, the Baka, and the Changyuan. And even then, we'll see, because they are still different. You cannot really, can you really say that Hua Zhuliangzi is the same as Changyuan or Baka? No, I don't think so. So maybe we will see through this session what we can find out. Now, what I notice about this tea is the viscosity is quite high, and the astringency is low. And you have that high-pitched fragrance, but which is more present in the mouth. Actually, when you smell the tea, it doesn't smell that much. It's really after drinking the tea that you get that that aroma that comes back from the throat. So that's the kind of aroma I like. So feel free to ask some questions in the comments. So is early season tea smaller leaves? That's an interesting question. Maybe we could say yes, because they are growing more slowly overall. But you could think, since there's a high temperature, the development of the leaves is still fast. Okay, because when the leaves grow, and this is true for all the trees, you have two things. You have development and growth. Growth is caused by the sun, and development is caused by the temperature. So the development is like at which stage, like how fast will the new bud unfold. So I guess if you have a fast development and a slow growth, you will have smaller leaves, okay? Because the new buds will work quickly, so they will unfold like this and reveal a new bud, which will unfold and unfold, and so that's a fast development. And if you have a fast growth, well, growth determines the size of the cells, okay? So depending on the development, you have the same number of cells in the leaf, but they grow bigger and bigger, and they grow bigger and bigger thanks to the sun, thanks to photosynthesis. So if you have a lot of sun, you should also have a high growth. Now the problem is, this is true when the plant is not stressed, but in spring it lacks of water, and therefore it lacks of nutrients. So I don't know exactly what the result would be theoretically. I'm not sure really if we can say they are bigger, because if you look at like Laomanoy or Bakanoy or Yiwu, the leaves are huge. So I think it might be quite a complex question. So any recommendations for sweet and peach notes? I'm not sure about the peach notes. I would associate this with maybe slightly older teas, but what recommendations? Of course, I'm thinking of the Bangwai tea, but it's coming next month. We haven't released it yet because the big trees are not pressed yet, and I wanted to release both the small trees and the big trees together. But if you look at the Hekai, you know, the more I drink Hekai, the more I find it really strange that it's a Monghai tea, because it's actually very sweet, huh? Maybe that might be something you're looking for. Maybe the Hekai tea, actually. It's the sweetest of the Monghai teas, in my opinion. Probably the peach aroma will come with a bit of aging. If you've tried the Bangwai single tree that we released last month, was pretty good at that, with both sweetness and, yeah, that kind of fruity aroma. So, hi everyone, thank you for joining. 56 people watching, that's very nice, thank you. Yeah, do I prefer the Gaiwan open or... Yeah, actually, you'll notice that I mainly only use the lid to brew out the tea. I prefer to keep it open because first I like to look at the leaves while I'm drinking tea. And I don't know, I just feel like it's good to let the water evaporate a bit, to let the leaves dry a bit between the sessions, or otherwise maybe, I don't know, it would keep steaming inside or something. I guess it's not important, it's just an aesthetic consideration, a habit, you could say. And by the way, this is a Gaiwan made by Marcel Karcher from Munich. He has the Instagram T-Log, and yeah, it's really beautiful. If you look at this, you know, because I like simple Gaiwans, but a couple of months ago I was in Munich. We had a tea session in his gallery, because he mainly sells teaware that he makes himself, and also imports from Japan and Taiwan and China, I think. And so this one he made himself in his basement, where he has his studio. And really, if you look at the shape here, it just looks really good. Look at this. I don't know, it's just very harmonious, the proportions, and you kind of get used to using nice things. And the problem is when you start using nice things, the cheap ones then start to look gross, but it's okay, you know, we shouldn't look down upon the cheaper stuff, because I use a lot of Gaiwans every day, and yeah, but I must say these days I'm using mainly this one, because the handling is so nice, you know, like it's very thin, almost, it's very sharp, the edge and here, and it just feels so nice to the touch. And this is the cup that goes with it. So if you're looking for high-end teaware, you could say, which of course will be much more expensive than the teaware we sell on the website, for example, I highly recommend you check his Instagram and his gallery in Munich. He has really, really nice pieces. And now the bitterness is coming. And it's coming pretty strong, huh? But very short-lived. And I'm not going to drink everything, because I need to go through like three or four teas tonight. Yeah, now we get a lot more. Now, yeah, you cannot say this is a light tea in a way. Huh? It's aromatic, but it's got the punch of a proper Monghai tea. You could say it's a bit like some good Nano Shan with a bit more punch in the nose and in the upper mouth. It feels a bit more dynamic. And you have a beginning of Huigan from like the third brew, so that's quite interesting, huh? Okay, let me see. So, okay, so there are lots of questions, so sorry, I need to move forward with the questions. Will there be a Pasha this year? I don't think, really. I don't think, and it's because I have Bacchanoi. And really, when you try the Bacchanoi tea, in my opinion, it's quite similar to Pasha. So I don't think I will source Pasha. In a way, it's too bad, because I haven't sourced Pasha for 2 years now. I won't source Nanoshan this year, because I visited Tafa 2 weeks ago, and yeah, I wanted to ask. I asked him about the tea, but it's already sold out. So, well, he's a good, successful tea maker, so his teas sell out fast, and I didn't ask earlier. So probably I'll do an autumn Nano, and yeah, so Pasha, because Pasha is between Nano and Lao Banzhang, that's why I'm talking about Nano. I consider Pasha really as the kind of the Banzhang taste, huh? And since I have that Bacchanoi, I don't feel it's relevant to source a Pasha tea for now, because really the taste is quite close to Bacchanoi. And I have two Bacchanoi, one a cheaper one, which is made of like mixed picking, so the smaller and medium trees of the ancient tea garden, and I have the expensive one, which is just like last year, made of the bigger trees. So yeah, probably no Pasha. Will there be ripes this year? I think we will do that in August, okay? Because we're in June, we will release the first raw Puerh. Then in July, I have a lot more teas to release. Maybe we'll have some oolong tea, maybe, because the harvest is now for the oolongs. And then for the ripes, I guess I will wait until August, okay? Because I try to plan a bit over the year the release of the tea. What the years in business taught me is that you get more sales when you release new products. So it's good to release new products every month. So we're running low actually on ripe Puerh, and I will start looking for good ripe Puerh. But I will probably only release them in August, because the ones we have are really good. Now I think all the cheap ones sold out, so I might find a cheap one in the meantime, maybe for next month. That's a good suggestion. So the French website, no, the French website for now is closed. I still have the stock in France, but it's a backup. It's like if another COVID crisis comes, or I don't know, if China invades Taiwan or anything, then there will be a source of tea that we have in France, but it's more like some strategic reserves in case of a crisis. Because the shipping is working well now, I don't see a point really in reopening the French website. Now, last month, a couple of parcels were returned from Germany for an obscure reason, so I've sent them again, and I will we'll see what happens. If it keeps occurring, then I will find a solution, okay? But for now, no, I don't plan on reopening the French website for now. Will there be a new yellow flakes? Yes, actually, I went to the tea factory, and I saw we still have bags of yellow flakes from autumn, and we have our yellow flakes that we sorted this spring, and there was lots of yellow flakes. Yeah, it was incredible. Maybe 25% of yellow flakes. So we will press a lot of cakes with them, and these will be good yellow flakes, because I found that I used a new machine in Jingmai to sort out the yellow flakes, and in the end I found that the tea was very cleanly sorted, so actually some of the good tea went into the yellow flakes, and especially the buds, because they tend to be the same color, more yellow, so they can look like yellow flakes to the machine, and they go into the yellow flakes. So probably we'll have even better quality yellow flakes this year. I don't know when I'll release it, because I'll have to check actually at the pressing factory. I need to go and sort a lot of things there. Maybe next month actually. But we still have a good stock of those yellow flakes we pressed, I think, in 2020 or 2021 that have been selling very well on the website. It's one of our best sellers. And so what did I learn from my tea experiments this season? Wow, I feel the tea season is already far away, because we did so many things in between. What did I learn? I think I made a couple of experiments with the black tea. I think I was really happy about the special processing black tea. You know, I made a YouTube video about this one, and I'd like to dedicate more time to it, but autumn will be more suitable for that, because it's very slow to make, and usually it's very busy in spring, but we have more time in autumn for this kind of experiments. So I will make more in autumn. What did I learn then? 2 weeks ago, I had the producers from Laos, you know, the NGO we work with, so some tea producers came, and I had a consulting mission with them for 1 week. So I took them to Jingmai, Monghai, and we talked a lot about the tea production and different strategies, both for production and sales. And that was very enriching actually, because I got into the world, you know, of Monghai wholesalers and big factories, which I'm not that familiar with actually because we don't sell tea there, but they want to sell their tea there, so I tried to help them make connections and talk about this. So on this aspect I learned a lot. As for the tea production, I feel like we learn a lot of things, but for the technique of Puerh tea processing, I think it's quite stable now, it's quite mature. Huh? We don't really change our processing technique. Now this year the leaves were very dry, and it was dry overall, so you need to shorten the withering time, but this is small adaptations, so in that aspect I wouldn't say I've learned that much. But yeah, every year we learn a few things and keep exploring some tea gardens. Will there be new white tea? Yes, we've made a lot of white tea. It's again at the tea factory, so you see I really need to go to the pressing tea factory. It's 15 kilometers away from here. Tomorrow is the holiday, you know, the Dragon Boat Festival, so they're not working, so I will go on Tuesday and see what we can do with those that white tea. Because, yeah, spring white tea is pretty good, huh? So, yeah, we'll have new white tea. But again, we'll probably release that in August with the, along with the ripe pu'er. The older 2021 Shanghai Autumn, yes, from Jingmai is kind of peachy. Yeah, indeed, the peach aroma, I think you get it more with semi-aged teas. So, do you ever worry about introducing microplastics during the process of tea making? Not really. I haven't really thought about that issue. No, I don't really worry. Yeah, I know for like the organic certification, they have some specific plastic bags that you need to use, which are like organic certified. But we just use the regular ones really for that everybody uses. So no, I don't really worry about that. You often see tea pickers using woven plastic bags, fresh leaves, but the plastic bags, so we all use those green, they are plastic bags actually, green plastic bags to carry the leaves around, and that's how it's done really everywhere in China probably, yeah? But yeah, I haven't heard any issue with this. This is where really it's good to have regulations at the government level, because really we don't have the expertise to, to judge that kind of thing, to assess that kind of risk or what would happen, So, autumn Lauman small trees, should I expect strong bitter flavor on this one? Not that strong, because the autumn version tends to be milder. This one though is pretty strong, this Lauman. The small trees, like every year, we choose the small trees from mixed bitter and sweet varietal, and this one is pretty bitter. So I don't know if it's because he happened to source from a garden with more bitter teas, or maybe just because the harvest this year gives a stronger tea. Yeah, that's the point really of this harvest. All of the teas, they taste really strong. And that's the exact same thing that we said last year. But this year it tastes even stronger. So I don't know, maybe this year was even harsher than last year. Maybe, okay, I hope the connection is okay. Maybe there's a cumulative effect because it's the second year we have a drought. I don't know, but the teas taste really strong this year. And this one now, you can say it's quite bitter, huh? And slightly different from Laumana. Now you get some astringency. After the bitterness vanishes, you get astringency. That would be a difference with Laumano tea, because in Laumano tea, you get more sweetness than astringency, in my opinion, in the bitterness. Especially if you try the Gusu version. I think this one is really my favorite tea, like the Laumano Gusu, because it's so sweet. You know, the bitterness comes and it just leaves. It's quite short-lived, actually, maybe 2 seconds, and then it leaves a trail of honey, of sweetness in your mouth. That's really cool. While the small tree version, which comes half from bitter varietal, has a more persistent bitterness. So stronger bitterness overall, but less sweetness. Okay, I'm going to do one last brew of this one, and then I want to try the Changyuan. Of course, I feel like this kind of tea you can easily brew. Hello, I hope we're back. Can you see me, hear me again? Yeah, the camera overheated because it's hot here. I started doing the live streams in winter, so we didn't have this problem. But yeah, now it's like 30 degrees, something like that. And yeah, I tried to use I just opened the flip screen, so hopefully the heat will dissipate a bit better. I'll have to keep that in mind for next time. Huh? Let's hope it won't cut again. If it cuts again, I will try to find some kind of cooling. So I was will we have Jutang? No, we won't have Jutang, because I think that Jutang was okay, but I don't feel like offering it again for now, because in a way the profile was not too characterized. I like the teas to have a bit of character, and in a way the Jutang was a good tea, but yeah, I don't feel like featuring it again. Now I'm a good friend with the producer who makes this tea, because he makes the Fat Zanhe tea actually. So every time I go to Lansang, I meet him, and we drink a lot of tea together and talk about tea. So we bought a lot of his Fat Zanhe tea this year. But yeah, the Jutang, maybe they will improve the taste of the tea somehow. I took a quick trip to Jutang. Yeah, I looked at the tea trees, that's quite interesting, but it's a very small area. So no, I don't plan on doing Jutang this year. So will there be an end of summer discount again? I don't know. It depends. It depends really. Yeah, typically I try to have like 3 or 4 discounts every year. The biggest one is on Black Friday, which is minus 20%. And often I have one at the beginning of the year, something like that. And then like during the spring harvest, or just before the spring harvest, because we need cash to buy the fresh leaves and buy all the tea. And then we'll release the new teas, so there's no discount because the new teas are released, and it's only after a while that we can have a discount again. So it could be at the end of summer, maybe. I don't think that far away actually. So another Tangfang Yangzi, yes, it's in the pressing factory. I already got a sample cake, but they weren't all wrapped, so it's delayed to next month. It's really good tea. I love Tangfang Yangzi. And actually there will be 2 versions of Tangfang Yangzi. One which will be the single trees, like the one we called Jinggu single trees last year. Well, let's call it Tangfang Yangzi single trees. And so I got maybe 5 trees, I think, 5 or 6 trees that we've blended together. And there's like a cheaper typical Tangfang Yangzi. And I really like both versions. So yeah, it's one of my favorites from last year. Huh? How do you protect your stomach from taking so much fresh pu'er? I don't know, just eat more, eat some fat food, eat a lot of junk food so that you get a good reason to drink a lot of raw pu'er. It's much better now than during the harvest, because during the harvest the tea is really raw, you know, it's just out of the drying mats, only like 1 day old or something, then yeah, that's really raw. But as a rule of thumb, you want to try, after 3 raw pu'er, you want to have a black tea or maybe a ripe tea to maybe warm up a little bit. But it's okay. So how do you identify big tree versus small trees only based on taste characteristic? So it's not as easy as we think, you know, because when I started back in 2010, that was really the whole question, like, is this Gushu? And you should only buy Gushu, and because the small trees is all low quality. And that was more true 10 years ago or 15 years ago than it is now. Because in the past, the small trees were all intensively managed, so they used chemical fertilizers and pesticides, so it was a high yield. And so usually high yield correlates with low quality. And so there was a more drastic difference. You still have that kind of tea nowadays, but not on our website, hopefully. The cheap tea is more commonly used like for very, very cheap raw pu'er or for ripe pu'er. And even the ripe pu'er we source, we try to avoid using such material, because usually it still translates into the taste. Huh? Generally, the small tree is weaker. Now, this year, if you want to try, you can grab a bunch of samples, because we have, we have the Bakanoi for now. We have, you can try it with Jingmai. So we have the same area, the Lauman too, although the varietals are a bit different. You can try the big tree versus the small trees. Typically, the small trees can be more aromatic, but the big trees tends to be just stronger overall. You feel the presence. The tea has a stronger presence, and it's quite the same between like good wine and average wine, really. It just tastes full, you know, when it's the big trees. And you also get yeah, you get a better trachi. Typically, you get a better huigan when you really feel the freshness down here. It's most likely from big trees. But again, then, in my opinion, the soil is more important than the big trees. You see, for example, these small trees from Lauman, in terms of strength and presence and huigan, I think it will beat most of the gushu, you know, from Wuliangshan or from not so famous areas. Like the small trees in southern Monghai is really exceptional. And even in northern Monghai, even in Mongsong, you get really good small trees. Monghai area overall has very good small trees. And now with the natural tea gardens, the difference is not as clear-cut as it was 15 years ago. But still, you can feel a difference. Try our Miyun versus the Gulan. And I had the Miyun this afternoon, and I thought, yeah, it's really not that bad for small trees, because we improved a bit the material. So the trees are not so old, but they are located on poor soils, like close to Tapingzhang Plateau. And if you stop pruning them, so you let them grow a bit taller, then they will grow more slowly, and it will translate into a stronger tea. So, yeah, the natural tea garden, you could say, is the mid-range, you know, while like the entry level is all the Taidi, the intensive plantation tea, and the high end is the Gushu, the ancient tea gardens. But I'd recommend, if you're a beginner, maybe you can just start with the small trees, you know, for daily drinkers, and grab a sample of ancient tea garden tea just to taste the difference. And yeah, you can see for yourself, huh? Okay, so we're quite lucky with the camera. It hasn't stopped again, so with the flip screen open, it should be fine. Yeah, so we will have the new Huehua. I had the tea in my shop where this camera stands now, and it's going to be pressed. We just need to get the papers from Kunming. And we'll have also a gushu from Laos, from another village. Very nice tea, huh? Very nice tea, the Huehua. Yeah, I like very much, especially this year. So which one is my favorite this harvest? Yeah, I must say it's the Laumana Gushu. Really, you see, this Laumana is close to my heart. I really love that village. The experience is just awesome with the Laumana. Because it's really powerful, but it's not that aggressive. This is really a stereotype, you know. Laumana is not that aggressive, in my opinion. And when people ask me about my favorite tea, you know, in the past I would say, oh, it's complicated, there are different tastes. Now I just say Laumana, you know. So is Puerh ever produced in summer? Yes, it is produced, but it's very low quality. It's typically 10 times cheaper than the early spring tea, and it's used again for low quality raw pu'er, like very low quality, or for ripe pu'er. With a good fermentation, it can be fine, but the taste is much weaker because it's raining, so the tea grows and the leaves are very hard, so you get a lot of yellow flakes, and yeah, the tea once sorted, even when sorted, it's not that great, but you can still get pretty good price for value. Like if you were making tea a week or two ago, before the big rain came, it was still okay. So we don't deal in summer tea, apart from white tea, because I think white tea is still fine, and you could make black tea as well. Then, who designs the artwork on the wrappers? So, my wife takes care of this aspect of our business, and she talked a lot with the designers. So now we have a designer from Kunming, And I think the new designer is also from Beijing, I think, who designed this one. I'm not exactly sure because my wife worked with them. So she made different styles. I think depending on the ethnicity. So for the Lahu, you see Bakanoi, Hekai, Fadzanhe, they are Lahu there. So they get the same style. And then you have like the Bulang and the Khani, I guess, which have the same style. So yeah, what do you think about the designs this year? I think yeah, they are pretty nice, huh? In my opinion. We'll see how they hold with time. It's time to change the tea. This is a very good tea. I could keep brewing it, but I want to move forward. Maybe we can just put it here. The leaves are a bit broken, huh? The sample was a big chunk, so it broke a little. So if your leaves are broken in the Gaiwan, remember to shorten the brewing time, because that will get strong quickly. I don't think it's a major problem really to have broken leaves. You just need to adapt. So that's the Gongfu style. Huh? You need to look at the leaves and deal with them in a way. Maybe, yeah, I don't know if you can see well the leaves. Yeah, they are quite in a bad shape. Huh? It's not like Mao Cha. Yeah, so quite a strong tea for this one. And now I want to try the Changyuan tea. Yeah, I want to try the Changyuan tea. So let's just open a cake. Anyway, we need to make a lot of samples because we've got a lot of orders. I have 3 employees now processing the orders, so it should be faster than before. Tomorrow is the holiday, but we will all start working again on Tuesday. Again, you can see very small leaves, huh? Even smaller than the Huazhuliangzi, this one. Very tiny buds, and it's an area I'm not very familiar with because it's very far from here. So Changyuan is in Linsang, and yeah, I've never been to that area, so I will need to take a trip there. Yeah, this one is a bit less broken. Very good looking material. The buds are very hairy. Okay, let's do this. So you see, I've been doing tea business for 15 years. I still don't know how to wrap a cake properly, so that's just how I do it. Just give it a quick rinse. This one has more aroma straight away from the Gaiwan. Huh? It's like a more brilliant opening, you could say, than the Huazhuliangzi, which didn't reveal that much. Interesting, slightly muddy soup with some cells, some leaf skin in suspension. So that would be So that can be for several reasons. Main reason can be a hot rolling. So if the leaves didn't cool enough and you roll them, you will just scratch the surface. It's a bit abrasive, and when they are hot, they are just easier to scratch. So you kind of take away some pieces of some leaf cells, and you get a slightly muddy soup. It could be because of more steaming. That gives also a slightly muddy soup. But this is more prevalent in the raw material before the pressing. It's quite interesting that after pressing, it's like this. With a bit of aging, the soup will get clearer. Wow! Oh, yeah, the fragrance is really nice. So it's more a tea for the nose, really. But let's see what happens when you drink it, huh? So this one is lighter, really lighter in texture than the Huazhuliangzi, but from the first brew, you get the aroma, really. You get, again, some kind of smokiness, and I think I mentioned this in the autumn release last year of this Changyuan tea. So in a way, at least this first brew is quite different. Huh? From the first brew, you get something. In the Huazhuliangzi, the first brew was a bit shy. Maybe also because the tea was a bit compressed, okay? So let's do another brew. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Huh? Last time I had it, I felt it was a bit too astringent for my taste, but brewed like this, maybe I'm just more focused on the brewing today. So it's a light soup, and you have less viscosity than in the Huazhuliangzi, but a very perfumey soup. So if you like Mengku teas, that's kind of the profile. But yeah, I feel there's a lot going on actually, because even in the throat now you can feel it's getting coated a bit. Okay, let me check some questions. So, how are my teeth doing? I don't know. I prefer not to talk about my teeth because, I haven't been to a dentist in 10 years, so I need to go, I know. So will there be an autumn version of the Tangfang Liangzi? I don't know. I don't plan that far ahead for a tea release. Depends on the opportunities. I could see an autumn version would be nice. Would have to look at the price, but that could make a really good cheap tea actually, because like Yiwu tea is very famous for having good autumn tea, and Tangfang Liangzi is quite similar to Yiwu tea. So yeah, that could be a good idea indeed. So the Maocha that I released, can I talk about the Maocha I released this year? Wow, it's been a long time. I don't even remember. I really remember that Bangwai single tree, which was really good, and now actually we got a couple of single trees, so we blended them together, I think, and I think we pressed them into cakes. So they must be at the factory. So I really need to go to the factory on Tuesday. Yeah, it was really good tea in my opinion. I don't know if we still have it. I hope I have a bag somewhere. And we released the Maocha, so like the Liu Dui, it's what makes half of the million cake. You know, Liu Dui, and we sourced from a garden from our cousin, which is close by near Tapinjang, near the plateau. So the mean is really good this year. You can try the Liudoy material. This is our own garden. We let the tree grow because like 4 years ago, I went to my tea garden and I saw all my trees had been cut, and my brother-in-law, who manages the gardens, he had decided to cut the trees. So yeah, I was a bit not really upset, but a bit disappointed at this. So I told him not to cut the trees because it's better. We don't really care about the yield, but it's important to have tall trees. But no, they're pretty tall, huh? So I guess at some point we'll still need to cut them to keep them harvestable, but typically you keep them at 2.5 meters high because people are quite short there, and so they need to be able to pick up the leaves at the top with their arms extended. So 2 meters is about the limit. Another, I think we released the Nogu one, which is our own garden too, the Gushu garden, which I haven't had in a while really, because these are among the first batches we make in Jingmai, but then we get a lot more batches to taste, so usually it's the early batches, and maybe not always the best batches actually. We try to select a decent one for releasing as Mocha. But then the season goes on and we don't really have time to go back to them. So I must say I haven't tried them that much time. How does the Changyuan compare to its previous release? So the previous release was last autumn, and so I'm trying the Changyuan. That's what I have in my Gaiwan now, and we're on the second brew. And I must say, yeah, it's really good, but it's in the same personality, I would say, as the autumn version, just maybe stronger. So that's also something to study, really worth studying. Autumn versus spring of the same area, and yeah, you can clearly say some things, because the poetry world can be confusing because it seems to be so complex that sometimes you cannot say anything because it's too complicated. But at some point you still notice some trends. You just need a very large sample to be able to notice the trends, because you could say there's a lot of noise in the data. But generally the autumn teas are just a weaker version of the spring tea, but they can be more aromatic. But this spring tea, it's also very aromatic. Now, but the soup is different. The soup is, of course, much more powerful. And now I'm starting to get the astringency that I noticed in my earlier sessions. So, yeah, it depends. Some people might not like this kind of astringency. A bit citrusy, maybe, a bit like a lemon. But in a way, it can be disturbing to some, but it also gives a kind of bite. So I think it will be a divisive tea, this one. So maybe get a sample before you buy a cake. But personally, I will definitely keep buying this tea, because it's interesting. But yeah, it's got the kind of harshness that you get a lot in the Mongku teas. So now I'm looking forward to trying the Baka, because Baka is from Mongku. But I really like the sustained fragrance, the aroma that you get from smelling the leaves to just having the tea in the mouth, and after swallowing the tea, you just keep having that same spectrum of fragrances. And actually, it also feels good to have a light tea like this. Yeah, in a way, it's. I don't have a lot of light teas, I find, on my website. And even last year, you know, in autumn, I said that this tea is an outlier in our collection. It doesn't taste like the others, but I will keep sourcing it because it's really an interesting thing. Huh? And from a totally unknown area, really, I've never seen any Changyuan tea in the market. They are probably mislabeled, or maybe the production is very low there. I need to go, but it's quite far. Yeah, so the fear of the Laomana, but the Laomana is bitter, but like if you try the Gushu, the sweet version, it's definitely not super bitter, at least not to my taste. Of course, the small trees has a strong bitterness, yeah, so not everyone like it, but I think people get traumatized by those kind of fake Laomana because you get bitter tea in the south of Xishuangbanna, you get some in Myanmar and in Laos, and some can be really badly bitter, like to the point of tasting like poison. Really, I think the worst tea I've had, I think, was from Laos, and it was, I think, from Xian Kuang area, and it was extremely bitter. Yeah, it just tasted like poison, really. These teas tend, because the bitterness, it needs to have something to back it up, actually, to make it worth it. So if you have only bitterness and just a watery tea, that won't work. The bitterness will feel harsh. But if you have a strong bitterness, which is backed up by a lot of viscosity and, you know, stuff going on, it just adds to the experience, I would say. In a way, I would feel it's a bit like dissonance in music, dissonance. Yeah, I'm not sure I want to go on that in that topic, but I feel, the bitterness needs to be paired with other things to make it interesting. And Laomana has much more to deliver than only bitterness. So, yeah, bitterness is just one aspect. So, yeah, the 2014 Laomana that I had, which was made by Ai Xiangnan, the producer that we work with, so who makes these teas, it had a strong bitterness, but I would say on my upper limit, really, at which I would say, beyond that point, I would say maybe this is too much, but I accepted the strong bitterness in that 2014 tea because it was a bit aged and it had a wide range of things to offer, some aromatic complexity, really good thickness. So again, there was a lot of things that were supporting that bitterness, so that was good. Okay, so thank you if you enjoy the wrappers. That will make my wife very happy because she spends a lot of time discussing with the designers on how to do the wrappers. I'm not too involved in these things. So for all these teas, no, we don't buy the fresh leaves, we buy the dry leaves. We have the producers process them in the villages. We only buy the fresh leaves for the Jingmai teas, the Miyun and the Gulan. Even for the Miyun, half of it was processed by our cousin because now we just coached her, you could say, to process the tea in the same way as we do. Like she used to come a lot to our factory and you know, give a hand during the busy time, so she knows how we like the tea to be processed. And since she married and moved out in another village, now we just ask her to process. So half of the tea in that Miyun was made by her and half by us using our technique. I think it's not really that relevant who processes the tea. you know, the technique is not that hard to acquire if you work with conscientious people who like their work. So, yeah, in some areas maybe they don't have the skill, and then we can coach them, for example. But nowadays, really, the processing issues are quite rare. Only if you go to the remote places, you will have that. For example, in Laos, we had that issue, but that's partly also why I accepted doing that consulting job, because then that would be an opportunity to teach some farmers and get some good tea sources from there. So it's okay to trust the farmers, you know, once you've made the connection and you know you can trust them, there's no problem. I know some tea bosses like this who, during the springtime, just take a 2 or 3 day stay in Jingmai, then go to Laobanzang, then go to Bingdao, then go to many places and process the tea themselves. And I don't really understand. From a marketing standpoint, maybe they try to build, you know, a persona, and like the tea master who goes to the tea mountain everywhere to process the tea, but it's not really necessary to get a quality product as long as you just coach people on how you want the tea to be processed, or just find the people who naturally process the tea just like you like. This is mainly what I do. I don't do a lot of coaching unless nobody in the area can process the tea. If you go to the famous villages, you'll have no trouble finding someone who can process the tea as you like. And so that's why when I visit a farmer, I'm more interested in trying the tea that he produced like 1 or 2 years ago, you know, than just asking for a sample of his fresh tea. You know, the tea that he produced last year has already matured. You can see how it's aging and how it was processed. While the sample you're trying in early spring might not be the exact same thing that you will get at the end of the season. So sometimes you have some tea bosses with funny ideas, like they ask a sample in March, and then they complain that the tea they receive at the end of the season is not the same. Yeah, it's because the tea tastes different in March and in April, and in the end you'll get probably a blend of the harvest. So you cannot really judge, like you cannot judge the taste of the Jingmai Gulan, which is a blend of like 5 different gardens processed over a month. You cannot judge it on the taste of our Noguwan Maucha, for example, which was made all in 1 day, and it was like a snapshot of the taste of this garden at that time. So yes, Aonama 2024. Yeah, I would like maybe to source some because I really enjoyed the Lauman. Yeah, I will need to check maybe. I will need to check again with the guy, and we'll see. Huh? So the 2024 Fadzanhe. Can I drink it now? I will first drink the Baka, and then I will see if I'm not too tea drunk. Maybe we can do the Fadzanhe. Yeah, I need to try it again because, again, since he's my good friend in Lansang, we try to improve the quality of this tea. And this is really the Fadzanhe. This is a really great garden, very high altitude in an area with not famous whatsoever, quite remote, and I want to make more of this tea. Actually, I think we got 200 kilo of this tea this year. And we got them to separate, you could say, the medium trees from the small trees, so that cake is the medium trees, and yeah, it should taste better than last year's. I haven't compared them side by side yet. I will need to find time to do this. Now you still get some kind of viscosity if you brew it strong. It does get bitter interesting because the autumn version was not that bitter, but of course in spring that's when the bitterness can be more revealed. And I just feel the chachi is pretty good. It doesn't taste as expensive as the Huazhu Liangzi, huh? Because it still has less viscosity and more harshness. This one is less astringent, yeah, less harsh, and it's much more expensive. But of course, it's also from a more prestigious area, you could say. So the Changyuan might be a very good deal if you can go past, or like if you enjoy that kind of lime-like, lemon-like, some kind of harshness. I would say it's a kind of astringency, a mix of bitterness and astringency, which gives the tea a good bite, but that some people might not like. So maybe try a sample before you buy a cake of this Changyuan. I will give it one last brew, and then I will switch to the Baka tea. So, anyone order and had delivered to UK? We have quite a few customers in the UK, so there should be no problem delivering there. Okay, so thank you all for your purchases and your comments. There are more and more people watching the live stream, so I'm very happy, and that will push me to keep drinking more tea. Huh? It started really bad because I was 1 hour late for the stream because I thought everything would be simple, but I found that I had lost my gear. My gear was scattered everywhere in my house, so I started searching for it frantically, and then I saw the software wasn't working. I had to update some things. Eventually it worked, but that's why I started late. So thank you very much for being patient. Really enjoyed the sample last year, Mai Sao Kan. Which of the new cakes are most similar to it? Yeah, Mai Sao Kan is a very nice garden in Jingmai, but we couldn't source the leaves from there this year. I think because they got a customer. They have that really good garden, but last year their customer didn't buy, and this year he bought. So yeah, we couldn't get access to that garden this year. That would be the single trees, the Jingmai single trees. Because in Mai Sao Kan, they really have a lot of single trees. I've heard it's because of a microclimate thing. It's a place which is more isolated, apparently, when there's a hailstorm or some frost. It tends to be less damaged than other areas, so that's why the tea trees can grow big there. So that would be, I think, an equivalent would be maybe the Jingmai Danzhou, but there's no Mai Sao Kan material in this one. There is He Huan and Aiban mainly. I had it actually this afternoon. It's really good. Yeah, I would say actually it's hard to choose between the Laomana Gushu and the Jingmai single trees. Those two are really good too. So what relative humidity would I recommend to age? I would recommend 70%. The best you can do, I would say, is get some, so keep the tea cakes in the Mylar bags that we ship them in, and you can maybe, if you're really pro, you can buy some Bovida packs, these pouches that cigar smokers use to store their cigars at a set humidity. So you put the Bovida pack in the Mylar bag, and I think they have a 68% or a 65% Bovida pack. So you put it in, and it will condition the cake to like 65% equivalent in humidity. So you could go I would recommend 68, but some people are a bit afraid that it might go over like 70 and then turn a bit moldy or something. If you want to be on the safe side, just buy the 65, but I think the 68 should be fine. And if you go beyond 70, then you will start to get some wet storage profile. So if you like Taiwanese style or Hong Kong style teas, then you can go above that. But it becomes a bit dangerous beyond 70%. You might have your tea turn, get some bad mold. So if you do that kind of wet storage, you need to keep an eye on them, or at least, smell it. And if it starts to smell too funny, you just air them. So 70% is the optimal humidity. So have we had any customs issue before? It really depends on the country. Yeah, we've always had some customs issues, so I don't worry too much about it. The regulations can change. There was a time, at a point in Spain, they would start charging like insane amounts, like, I don't know, 50 or 60 euros inspection fee, something like that. And then, our Spanish customers, of course, were upset, but after 1 month, it just stopped, so there was no problem. Now, last month in Germany, we had lots of parcels returned, but we'll send them again and see what happens. And if we have a recurring customs issue, we'll find a solution, of course. Now, the thing is, of course, if you're in Europe, and because if you're in the US, really, they talk about the trade war with China and everything, but I feel like the US has the most relaxed customs. I've almost never had any issue with the US customs, apart from being confiscated like $5,000 worth of tea, but that was just a one-time occurrence. I don't know what happened there, but the rest of the time was, there's never any problem with the US customs. And in Europe, it really depends on the countries, but lately, you could say they ask for VAT and a small inspection fee, like 6-7 euros. So it's been pretty good, actually. You're more likely to be charged the taxes, but the taxes are reasonable. And if you compare like to buying a tea that's been imported already, you'll probably pay less, because, well, to operate a company in Europe, you also need to pay a lot of taxes, and you'll need to pay the import taxes anyway, so they will charge an extra price for it. And that's also why our French website actually didn't work that well. I mean, like, we had the French website, but we saw a lot of customers, they still bought from the Chinese website, because the Chinese website is like 20% cheaper. And yeah, so in the end, you might as well just buy your tea 20% cheaper and pay a bit to the customs. So that's why for now there's no point in having the French website opened. Yeah, so regarding like for ripe pu'er, you can use microbial starters, but in the big piles, I've talked about it, I've heard about it, but I've never really seen it, and I guess it's a bit like some trade secrets if people do it, but I don't know exactly if it's worked or not. I guess it should give good results, but in practice I don't know too much about it. Most of it is natural fermentation. I guess the big companies maybe have a bigger R&D department and probably have like professional microbiologists who can do that, but they won't share that information, of course. So I don't know too much about it. So a better way to notify the fans about the live stream. Actually, you know, like the newsletter, in my experience, email is still the best way to contact people and send a message. And this is what I did. This time I tried the soft launch tactic, you could say. So I actually released the teas on the website 3 or 4 days ago, and I only sent a message on our Discord server and on Instagram. And now I've sent the newsletter, and so I get again more orders now. And so by analyzing the ratio of orders that I got before sending the newsletter and after sending the newsletter, I can know about like what percentage of our customer base can get the information from media other than the newsletter. And I feel like the newsletter is still by far the best way to contact our customers, because really only a part of the people are involved in the tea community. You know, it's incredible, like you have some customers who place some really big orders, who have a lot of tea at home, and you never read them on Reddit or Instagram or Discord. They're just doing other things. So yeah, in my opinion, email works the best to notify people. Now, next time I'll do a live stream, I will try to set it up a bit earlier so that it shows up in YouTube. But I didn't have that amount of planning today. So how often do I drink? So the camera overheated again. Okay, maybe I'm going to open, you know what, I'm going to open the doors. That way the fresh air from outside will cool down a bit my tea shop. That should be enough actually, because now, what time is it? What time is it now? 1:20, so it's much cooler outside. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't drink a lot of old Puerh tea. It really depends on when I get a source of old Puerh tea. I really enjoyed that 2014 Laumana, and had the 2009 Nano, was also really excellent, but it's sold out now, I think. And yeah, we had that in 2005 Banpan, 2012 Laumana. I will need to look for other HTs, but it's hard to find really good examples of HTs at a decent price nowadays. But maybe with the economy not doing so well in China, you know, maybe you could think some people might be more willing to sell their collection of good tea, so we'll see. Usually I dedicate more like August, you know, in August or September, I might have more time to source that kind of teas. And so we don't stock a lot of tea really, yeah? Maybe in my storage I have like 1 ton, something like that. including the teas that I sell now. So tea that's really stored is maybe 400 kilo. Well, because our teas sell well, and I prefer to, have the cash back to buy more tea the next year, because our business is constantly growing, so we always need a lot of cash flow to buy the new leaves. But of course I'm aging like, I don't know, 20, 30 kilo of tea every year, just for fun. So yeah, if you're from India, sorry, the shipping is I think is impossible to India, because, well, basically if you're in a tea producing country which is not friendly with China, you'll get charged a lot of taxes, because they want to protect their tea business. And it's impossible, I think, to ship tea to India. Even to Taiwan, that might be a bit difficult. Vietnam is okay, interestingly. Is it difficult to find 30, 40-year-old Puerh tea? If you have money, it's not that difficult, I guess, but I would recommend to just go to Hong Kong or Taiwan or Malaysia and bring a lot of cash with you, really, if you want 40-year-old Puerh tea. And even then, I'd recommend you really study the topic before, or just buy, based on taste and what you're willing to pay for the taste, because that can be a treacherous world, you could say. And so that's why also I don't feature that kind of tea, because I don't want to assume the risk, of selling a fake tea, or not giving really the good value. So what are the main changes that I expect in a Mian cake over the next 5 years? So you will get a bit less bitterness. Originally, the Mian has a moderate amount of bitterness. I would say less than the Gulan, but still a bit. Maybe the astringency will soften, and then the aromatic profile will change. You might get a bit more sweetness. Yeah, that's about the changes for the tea aging. So, why are most... and does it change significantly in that short time frame? Yes, it does. 5 years is quite a long time, I would say, especially if you store it like close to 70% humidity. It does change quite drastically. Of course, like, it's kind of a logarithmic scale, the change. So it starts by changing really fast, and then not so fast, and slower and slower, okay? Okay, I'm sorry about the microphone crackle. I really don't know what causes that. Yeah, that's a bug we haven't been able to track. So I will just change the tea, okay? So actually, I would say it's quite different from the Huazhu Liangzi. But again, yeah, same personality, less expensive taste, maybe more harshness, but an interesting kind of harshness. And in a way, I could say I maybe prefer it to the Huazhu Liangzi, because it's maybe not as luxurious a tea, but a more interesting one. It's not a taste that you would commonly get at the tea table. So yeah, that's quite an interesting tea. Now let's try the Baka. So Baka, is in Mongkou. I visited there in 2021, but I didn't take many pictures there because I didn't bring my camera at the time. And so you can see, or can you see, yes, this is what the leaves look like. They are bigger than the other two. It's pretty high altitude. The producer told me it's 1,700 meters. Last time I sourced, I went to Bacanoy and I went to the highest village there, and it was, I think, 2,200 meters, the altitude. The mountains are so big there that they cannot grow tea at the top of the mountain, so the top of the mountain is just forest, and yeah, there's an upper limit. You know, like you could grow tea above that, but they would quickly die from the frost. So, yeah, 2,200 meters is quite the limit. Okay, that's about it. But why did we choose a lower altitude tea? Well, actually, this is one of the tea we bought based on the sample, but it was at the end of the tea harvest, so it was already a blended sample. So I haven't met the tea producer in person. But the tea just tasted really interesting, pretty good. And it's 1,700 meters, but the trees are older. Because I think what happened is, in Baka, when I visited, all the tea plantations I saw were quite young. I think they had only planted at the beginning of the Puerh rush. So probably you could think it was all natural forest before, and they went up in altitude and planted tea in altitude because the tea was selling well. But at 1,700 meters, apparently they had older gardens there. I didn't see them on my trip, but there are 3 villages at different altitudes. So following my instinct, I just went for the highest one, but apparently the bigger and better trees are in the middle village. The leaves are really beautiful, very green. It's interesting because I didn't see a lot of forest there. The gardens in Mongkou are typically not under forest cover, so that's a difference with what you have in Monghai and Jingmai, for example. But looking at how green the leaves are, this might grow in a forest because, you know, when they grow under forest cover, they're always in the shade, so they have to build up more chlorophyll to get better photosynthesis, so the leaves are greener. Yeah, unlike the Tsangyan one, this one is very clear. Still have some particles in suspension, but not so much. Huh? This one also has a powerful fragrance, but of a different kind than the Tsangyan. The Tsangyan was a bit smoky, this one is not at all. That's what I call like an alpine fragrance, you know, like pine wood, something like that. So this one has a light soup. Very light opening, but very fragrant. And I'll go directly to the next one. Huh? it's just fun drinking fragrant tea, you know, I'm not so used to it. I like to drink strong tea most of the time, but this one is very perfumey. We'll see what comes with the second brew, because I would say don't judge the first brew too much. Even like when you brew Laumana tea, typically the first brew isn't that strong. And the same happens especially with that Bacchanal tea, you know. The bitterness takes a long time to kick in. That's really surprising. But so that gives quite a dynamic session, because the taste of tea really changes. It starts very sweet, but the bitterness keeps building up as the leaves open up. So I guess this happens even more when the leaves are big, because when the leaves are big, the water will take more time to get to the inside of the leaves. So you will get a more, a more layered session and a more dynamic session. And in the tea factory, you can control this by the strength of the rolling. So if you roll the leaves tight, you will extract more of the juices, and it's a bit like pre-brewing the tea. The juices are already on the surface of the tea, so as soon as you pour the water, those juices, they just get into the tea soup. So it's a different kind of fragrance, huh? Different from the Changyuan and from the Huazhuliangzi, a bit more similar to the Huazhuliangzi. And I get a light hint of bitterness and moderate astringency on this one, huh? Also, quite an interesting profile. Also a bit harsh like the Changyuan tea. I would say it has the same kind of aroma as the Huazhuliangzi, but not even really. It's really alpine, like that pine tree, high altitude fragrance. But with a light mouthfeel and the same kind of harshness as the Changyuan. So you see, that might be a Linsang tea thing. And I don't drink that much Linsang tea most of the time, yeah. So it's up to you if you like that kind of bite or not. I just find it entertaining, mainly because I don't often drink that kind of tea. Of the three that I've tried, this one has the strongest bitterness, has the strongest astringency. And it has fairly light bitterness, but the aroma is more powerful than the two others. And the soup is light it has a low viscosity. So, let me just check. So, is the difference between a 2023 tea and 2024 tea going to be mostly noticed in the aging or the weather of that year? I asked myself this question, and I think I discussed it a bit with some friends, and it's hard to say, because of course when we drink the fresh tea, we can kind of find some obvious differences. But again, we cannot exactly do a fair side-by-side with the tea from last year, because tea from last year has aged, and maybe our memory is not so clear. And after years of aging, I don't know really if the vintage will be as relevant as it would be in wine, for example. Logically, we could think yes, but in practice, we don't talk too much about the vintage when it comes to aged teas. You know, while in the wine world, like the price difference can be tenfold between two years. Not so much in Puerh tea. So I'm not sure about this, huh? ...2023 and 2024 had a similar weather. Now my feel now, my opinion is that the teas from this year are stronger. But we'll see if this is still true in 5 years. I'm not sure. So how much tea do I drink a day? I'd say I have a minimum of two sessions a day, but like today, this is probably my 8th session. So I had quite a lot of tea today. But it's okay, you know, once you have a heavy meal, it kind of resets the counter for how much tea you've had, so that's fine. So sorry, Mel and Amber, I didn't see your question, maybe. I'm just trying to read like this, but you feel free to ask again if I skipped your question. I'm trying to do my best, but... So, did I already compare the Bacanoy mixed trees with the single trees? I had them one after the other, but only on one occurrence. I need to do that again, and I'm not going to do that tonight, definitely, because these are really strong teas. Yeah, I found overall the single trees just had a stronger profile overall, but I would like to do a side-by-side, maybe dedicate an afternoon to that, because the two are quite strong teas. Yeah, I remember it was just stronger, the single tree production. But yeah, it definitely needs another tasting. So you can try the samples maybe if you want to try the difference. So do I keep the cakes from previous batches to see how they age with time? Yes, but the problem is that's what you're supposed to do, but actually I have like 3-4 boxes, big boxes, filled with Puerh tea samples from the past years, you know, and we're supposed to taste them at some point, but in the day-to-day operations, we don't really have that much time, you know. So these days, I'm really trying all the new teas to try to be better able to advise the customers and see for myself, like taste the differences, try to understand the villages, and yeah, maybe during the low times in the year, we can try more of the teas we've had in the past. So, but yeah, from time to time, of course, I keep some teas, especially the Jingmai teas from the past years. Okay, so many people are asking about the Aonama cake, so yeah, I will try to get in touch with the producer of this tea, and yeah, see if I can get some tea from there, huh? But it will probably come later in the year, because I already have a lot of tea to be released next month. And so, yeah, so I said earlier that after the pressing, ideally they should maybe rest for a couple of weeks, the tea cakes, because the pressing is a bit traumatizing. But if you use low temperature, it's not that bad in the factory if you use low temperature. And I think that by the time you receive it, really this kind of, the tea has already recovered. So that's why I had this debate actually with other tea sellers, and some of them decide to release later in order to give a better taste. But In my experience, it doesn't really matter. I think I prefer to release the tea early, and that taste will come off anyway. Even if it's in a sealed bag, I feel that it's more like an internal process in the tea. And so it shouldn't be a problem when you receive the tea. And when I say 1 month, it's quite conservative. Maybe 1 week or 2 weeks is fine. And anyway, at the same time, it's still fairly fresh tea, so the tea itself, whether pressed or not, will be aging a bit during that time frame. So, yes, I'm going to brew it a bit stronger. So feel free to ask other questions. I don't feel too tea drunk yet, so I think I will keep going with the Fadzange cake, because I'm really curious myself. I've had it maybe twice, and I want to try again the taste. So today this one, I feel it's a bit light actually. I had a better session, I would say, with the Baka maybe 2 days ago when I was writing the tea description. Maybe because it's my third tea of the evening during this session. It doesn't taste as strong as when I had it 2 days ago. I'm going to brew it a bit stronger just to see. So, does the taste preference varies of some Puerh varies a lot amongst my tea friends and other farmers I know? Yes, there's quite a wide range of taste preference and what makes good tea. And that's why you should really try to get tea from different vendors, especially at the beginning, because I know each vendor has its own opinions and taste. I like the teas when they are quite vibrant and processed on the green side, and some other don't like that style. So yeah, definitely there are differences in taste, especially I would say processing style. And then of course you will always have like the EU snobs, like those poor tea drinkers who consider that the only true Puerh tea is from EU. You got lots of those in Guangdong, huh? They really love their EU tea, and they look down upon the Monghai tea. And if you bring a Jingmai tea to Monghai, they will say, oh, this is not tea from Xishuangbanna, so this is like second category tea. But then maybe all those people are a bit chauvinistic, People tend to prefer the tea from their own mountain, but it's also because they have less access to other mountains. And in a way, as customers, tea enthusiasts, mainly in the West, you have access to a wider variety of tea than I have. I rarely get to drink yen cha or dancong. And if you plan on visiting me, you know what gift to bring me, I'm always happy to get some good dancong and yen cha. So am I sourcing any Oriental beauty from Ailao? Yes, I hope so, but it's still early because Oriental beauty is summer tea. I will need to contact Mr. Huang because I think he's finished his harvest. And an interesting thing is I've heard he's made a roasting room, a charcoal roasting room in his factory. So I might send black tea from Jingmai there and have it roasted. I asked him about it last month, but he was getting busy with the harvest, so now I think he might have more time. And yeah, I need to ask him about the Oriental Beauty. Oriental Beauty production depends on the weather, depends on the rain, and if the insects want to visit the gardens or not. So we don't have it every year, but we make sure that when we have it, it's good tea. So we'll see, but this is the kind of summer tea, so it's still early. So can we expect videos about different mountains in the future? Well, yes, I need to continue doing that live stream series about the exploration of the tea mountains. It's just that, yeah, I've been busy and I hadn't done those live streams in a long time, so I would need to, I need to get going with that. Okay, so let me brew it a bit stronger. So are there other drinks or food that I enjoy exploring? The problem is I don't have too much time. I like good wine and I like good whiskey, but I feel like you need to dedicate time to it. When I visit Europe, usually I really enjoy the good stuff. But I have lots of wine here that I import myself from France, really good wine from southern France. But I don't drink that often because the problem is I find, especially as I'm getting older, I feel like just drinking alcohol takes a toll on my productivity, and like if I get drunk the next day I will feel tired, so I drink less and less, maybe just twice a month or so. And I particularly like Armagnac. You know, this is like cognac. This is from southwestern France, and I really love those. So maybe at some point I will explore a bit that area and buy some good ones. What makes farmer leaf tea different from the tea produced by other small vendors? I don't know really, because we all, well, I hope we all make the tea that we love. Now we process it ourselves in our tea factory in Jingmai, and I think that's it's quite rare, at least for Western facing vendors, like with websites in English, and we make it in Jingmai. What makes it different? Well, it's really a matter of taste, just like different music. Sometimes you prefer a vendor over another, and there's no real logic behind them. And that's fine like this, you know. So that's why, at least at the beginning, it's really good to try different styles and different vendors, different approaches. We all do a curation, so just like what I said like 10 minutes ago, there are different preferences, and so, well, if we sell the tea we like to drink, then the tea we sell will reflect that. And yeah, there are two strategies about this when doing business. You can sell a product that you like yourself and attract customers who have the same taste as you have. So that way the sourcing is easy because you just buy what you like, and then you hope that a community of customers will follow you and then trust your taste because they have the same taste mostly. Or you can try to find products that will sell well. Not necessarily products that you like, but products that you will sell well. For example, the big factory teas, I know that there is a public for the Tai, the Xiaguan big factory teas, and those teas would attract a certain kind of tea drinkers, but I don't like them myself, so I don't sell them. But I can totally see the logic behind selling and offering that kind of products, of course. So I follow the rule of I just sell the teas I like, and in a way that's a double-edged sword. It's working pretty well because our business keeps growing, but if it was not growing, maybe we would think about catering more to the demand of the market. I don't know, I guess you're forced to doing it, but you could say it's the same discussion in the art world, you know. A lot of artists are poor and they want to follow the true art, and others choose like a more commercial path, and in order to maybe have a more successful career, they might not do what they would really love to do, and it's a personal question that we ourselves don't have to ask, because our business is growing well now. So I guess at this point, at least, if it can stay stable or keep growing, we won't really have to change that way of thinking. But it's because we're fortunate and others might not be in that position. It's the same actually than the tea producers. Like, for example, we can produce the tea that we like to make, but that's a luxury because we have our own brands. But for example, when I work as a consultant in those villages, you could say most of the farmers they won't have that positioning. You know, they won't have that. They won't be in that kind of position to have their own brand and thing. They mostly sell wholesale. So in that case, they would be better off just making a tea that sells well. And of course, if they have better ideas about how to make tea and how to market it, then they can make the tea they produce. But I wouldn't recommend that approach of making the tea that you like yourself if you have no possibility of building your own brand and marketing the tea yourself. Because if you want to cater, like sell your tea in Monghai, then maybe it's just better to learn how to make tea with to comply with the customer's request if it's a big factory and they make a big order. And actually, those people from Laos, I brought them to our tea producer from Yingpanshan who makes the black tea. Because I think he's the best guy who makes black tea, in my opinion. So we visited him for him to give them advice, you know, on how to make black tea. And he said that he learned so much about black tea making because he got a lot of different customers. Customers from northern China who like heavily roasted black tea. Customers from Guangdong who want a very low drying temperature and a very natural tasting tea without that malty side, chocolatey side that Yunnan teas often have. And it's because he got to know customers from many regions of China. Actually, he had to adapt the processing style to their requests. So that's how he got to learn. So that's also another way to be successful, really, being flexible and catering to the demand. So does the tea preference change according to the season? Yes, typically when it's cold, I prefer to drink darker teas, so older raw pu'er or ripe pu'er or black tea. And when it's hot like these days, I prefer to drink a lot of raw pu'er. And it just makes sense. I think the body has different response, you know. I feel like it's kind of true that like drinking ripe pu'er, you just feel warmer, and raw pu'er is a bit like eating spicy food. It makes you sweat, but makes you a bit colder too. So yeah, I tried the smoking technique. when making that special processing black tea, and I thought about what kind of wood I should use, but I only had like the wood we have for firing the wok, and I don't know exactly what kind of wood it is, but I don't know, I was like in a wabi-sabi mindset, you know, so I was just looking at the tea factory and what was going on, and I just saw there was some smoke coming out of the fireplace, and I just put a cover to lead the smoke into the tea. So it was a bit of an artistic approach, I would say. And I know they use special kinds of woods when they smoke the tea. So yeah, definitely it can probably influence, huh? So the difference between 2024 and 2023, Lauman, small trees, I don't know really. I think there's really more bitter tea in the 2024 version, because the 2023 wasn't as bitter. But again, this year the tea stays stronger. So I don't know, because Xiangnan they really produce a lot of tea in Laomana. So maybe the tea we get each year, I don't know exactly where the tea comes from, you know, like which plot in Laomana. I'm not that familiar with Laomana, not down to the plot, so it's up to Xiangnan to do a good job of blending the tea. But I like that kind of more bitter style, and we'll see how it ages really. So yeah, thank you for all your comments, and we can see that more and more people are following the live stream. So I will end this tea. Okay, this session was a little bit boring in my opinion, but I had a really good session 2 days ago. Maybe it's just because it's the third tea that I have. That's why it's not as strong, and I will definitely try to compare. But I would say this one is really in between the Changyuan and the Huazhu Liangzi. It has the body feel of the Changyuan, but maybe not as strong a Chati, but it has that same kind of Mengku style, Linsang style maybe, harshness, a bit citrusy, you know, some kind of astringency, but it has a very high-pitched fragrance, high-altitude fragrance, and I like that. Last time I had it, I remember there was quite a lot of bitterness. Maybe I brewed it stronger. I haven't weighted the tea today, so maybe there's less tea than usual, but no, it's not too... But that fragrance is still there, huh? I think it's like the 5th brew now. I still have a cake in Jingmai of that 2021 Baka. That was a very cheap tea. I haven't sourced again, but I like the aroma. This one has still a stronger body, because that Baka tea has a really good aroma, but the body was very weak. A lot of people liked it though. So what's the difference between tea from China and Laos? Well, it's just the country they grow in, but it's just a fiction, you know, the country. There are different tasting profiles in Laos and different tasting profiles in Yunnan, so you cannot talk about Laos tea as a single entity, really. We source tea from Utai, which is also called Nyat-O district, so it's one part of Pongsali, and even if you look into Pongsali, really, the teas from Pongsali town are really not that good, even though they are the most famous ones. I think the ones at the border with Yiwu are much better. And they are less famous simply because they are mainly sold as fake EU, so they are not that promoted. They are not that promoted because they are like a satellite area to EU, where the teas can really be sold at a very high price. So they are probably the most expensive teas of Laos, but people don't talk about them that much because they don't need to. Because they are called Guathongjai tea. Okay, I will just finish the session for this tea. So last tea for this evening, because it's already 2 in the morning, but tomorrow is the holiday, so it's okay. I don't have to take my kid to kindergarten. And I'm just having a good time. We'll finish with the Fadzanhe cake, because someone suggested I brew it, and indeed, it's an interesting one, because my wife told me that they again selected the teas differently from last year. Okay, there's quite a lot of yellow flakes. So yeah, did they sort the yellow flakes? There's so many yellow flakes here. But the tea looks pretty good. Medium leaves, I would say, quite the same look as Jingmai tea, but very beautiful. So let's try this. And that will be the last tea for this session. Last year we had a couple of cheap teas. Mainly our cheap tea range was the Bangwai small trees, so quite on the soft side. We had also the Huewa from Laos, also on the soft side. Those two teas were actually a bit similar. Maybe the Laos tea was softer but less expressive than the Bangwai small trees. In the Bangwai small trees, you get the softness, but still a bit of aroma, maybe more entertaining, but less relaxing than the Huewa. And we had this Fadzanhe tea. So these are like our budget teas. I think this one is sold $42 on our website. And it's about as cheap as it will get this year. We don't sell extremely cheap tea. Of course, there are cheaper teas in China. You could sell a cake for like $10. But first, we include the price of shipping in our tea cakes. Okay, so for shipping, it's maybe $6 per cake, or even more for shipping. So that's a fixed cost for every cake. So we don't want the shipping to cost more than the cake. And of course, we have a standard of quality. And on this, you have a kind of S-curve, you could say, in terms of price for value. You know, like if you get very cheap tea, you will have very nasty tea most of the time. Then, if you're willing to pay a bit more, you'll get much better tea. Okay, and so there's a range in which you have the best price for value. In terms of retail price, maybe that would be from like $40 to $100 a cake. In this range, you will get better bang for the buck, maybe. And then, if you go higher than $100, then you'll get more into the luxury world. So, of course, at least we try to select teas which are better according to the price, but there's a diminishing yield. Okay, we're arriving at the other side of the S, you know, and so if you pay $300, it will be 3 times as good as $100. It will be maybe 50% better, but still it will be a better tea. But if you have a $40 cake, if you compare it with a $20 cake, I think it will still be maybe 3 times better, or it's hard to quantify that experience, but maybe below $30 per cake, then you're really in the world of intensive plantations. It's pretty hard to have really good tea below this price. So I think that Fadzanhe tea is about as good as it gets in terms of price for value. The same like price range, like the Puerh, the Bangwai. These are the entry-level cakes that we accept on the website because they are of decent quality and I have them regularly. Then you could say like our Jingmai Mian, which we sell like $60, I would say is a step above, you know. Now, of course, it's a bit subjective, but for sure, Jingmai is a bit more famous. We make it ourselves, process it by hand. I think this one was processed with the small machine. I'm not sure though, it might have been processed by hand. And I'm still not sure about the true personality of Fadzanhe. It's a mountain quite close to Jingmai as the crow flies, but still distant geographically because it's several mountain ranges apart and the altitude is much higher there. And does it taste more like Jingmai tea or like Monghai tea? Well, maybe let's find out. Let's find out. So this is the rinse. Let's give it a first brew. So I think all the teas are very green today, but it's actually because I have two big spotlights here that I prepared for my live stream. So it's not the most natural light conditions. But it's very nice to see the tea clearly. Very unusual fragrance. Very unusual fragrance, huh? Something flowery, a bit like orchid, but I'm not very good at that game, you know, of naming the fragrance. The fragrance reminds me of that Bangwai single trees. Flowery, I would say. It's mainly several flowers mixed together. But it's not high-pitched like the ones we had before. So if you're in that budget of cakes below $50, this one would be, it's not a soft tea. It's more akin to Monghai tea in terms of profile. It doesn't have a strong bitterness, but it has more astringency than the Bangwai. The Puerh has quite some astringency still, but it's not soft like Bangwai or Puerh. It's more akin to the Jingmai Miyun. Let me just brew a bit stronger, but the aroma in the first brew is really nice, huh? Not really high-pitched, it's really in the middle and more flowery, so more akin to the Jingmai aroma. So, yeah, so the reason of the increased price difference for the Bakanoi single trees, this is the Lauman Agusu. It's just it's just a more expensive area, and Well, I don't know. Why is the Lauman Gusu my favorite cake? Why didn't I mention the Bacanoy single trees as my favorite cake? I feel like that the Bacanoy single trees is a step above in terms of power, but it's not the kind of tea that you could drink every day. While that Lauman Gusu, well, yeah, if you're in the tea business, if you don't have to buy the tea, you can just drink it every day, you know. Or if you're rich, you can drink it every day. But I feel the Bacanoy single trees, you need to kind of make more time for a session. I wouldn't drink that tea on a daily basis because it's really stronger. And I did try last year. I tried the 2023, so Laumana Gusu. This is Bacanoy single trees, and yeah, you get where the $80 are. Huh? You still get a stronger taste. Quite the same character, I would say. Bacanoy is a bit softer than Laumana. It has a bit less sweetness, but more softness. I think it's the viscosity of the soup, maybe, and maybe a slightly stronger bitterness in the Bacanoy. So the tea can be both soft and bitter, actually. That's quite surprising. And Bacanoy is more expensive because it's closer to Laobanzang, and still it's maybe 3-4 times cheaper than Laobanzang Gusu. So, yeah, it's a pretty good deal as far as Banzhang area tea goes. There's less tea produced in Bacanoy than Laoman-e. Laoman-e really has the largest ancient tea gardens in Bulangshan. So that might also explain. But the main thing for the price difference, I think, is the people in Bacanoy, their option is either they sell directly their own tea, either they sell it to people in Laobanzang, who will sell it like 3-4 times more expensive. So the mindset maybe is a bit different from Laoman-e. And I think Laobanzang tea is less faked with Laoman-e, or at least you would need to blend it, you know, to make a convincing Laobanzang. So you could say Bacanoy tea is just closer in taste to Laobanzang. That's why it's more expensive. And so do I ever sleep? Yeah, but I sleep quite late at night. I like this time of the day, actually, where everywhere is quiet and you can think about deeper things, I think. But I will try to go to sleep after this tea. It won't be easy, I think. A light bitterness, but really not so much. Medium astringency, I would say. Overall, a more aggressive profile than Bangwai. But you could say that this is a high quality tea, you know, so in my opinion, it's largely worth like $40. And even like if you were to do a blind tasting with the Miyun, you know, yeah, it'd be interesting maybe on another day, like what would be the differences. There's a different personality for sure. The aroma here is very, very special. Huh? And if you like the orchid aroma, what's typically associated with Jingmai tea, well, I'd recommend you buy this tea instead of our Jingmai cakes, because we don't process the tea for the aroma, so they don't really feature the typical stereotypical Jingmai aroma. Maybe they will when they will be aged, I don't know. But this one has that kind of orchid fragrance, the Fadzanhe. So that might be your tea. It's also the kind of tea that you can easily brew grandpa style because it's not too strong. And so you can just overbrew it and it will still give you a good brew. And so I think that will be our last brew because it's already almost 2:30. So can you just, if you have any closing remarks or last questions that I can take before I end this live stream, feel welcome. That was a really, really nice session, and I'm happy that so many people stayed. So, do you personally prefer young or aged sheng? I would say young, because I really don't think aged sheng is better than young sheng. They are just different. Yeah, that would depend like on the temperature outside, like how your body feels. But I would say, like, if it's a hot day, I would prefer young sheng. If it's a cold day, I would prefer an aged sheng. But they're really quite the same, in the end. What matters to me is the good raw material. The idea that that aged sheng is better than raw sheng, than young sheng is, I think, comes from the big factory tea world, because if you look at those cheap factory blends, yeah, they are really awful when young. Like, you cannot drink the cheap dai cakes or shagwan cakes when they are less than 5 years old. So some say they are designed to be aged, but well, that's a nice way to put it. You know, they are just undrinkable unless aged because the material is not that good. And that's why we only drink young sheng, young raw pu'er, since the advent of the gushu, so since like 2004, about that time, and that's the new pu'er tea era. Okay, before that we had the factory era with all the blends, and you still have the old school. You know, even if you check the old tea forums, even in the English-speaking worlds, they will keep talking about the factory blends and how you should age tea and everything. But this is from, these are from the past. That was true like 20 years ago. And since we have those higher quality productions now with gushu, the teas are enjoyable when young. But I'm not sure they will be really better when aged. They will just be different, in my opinion. So, I have a cake of 2023 Laumana Gushu, and it already feels quite powerful. How would you describe the 2024 in comparison? Maybe quite the same. I don't know. I felt it was very sweet this year, but powerful. Yeah, so there's a difference between aggressiveness and power. You know, like for example, Iwu tea is not aggressive. It doesn't have a strong bitterness and astringency, but it's powerful. It has a strong presence in the mouth. You can really feel the taste. It just feels like you're drinking something, you know, and you can feel it flow down your throat. It leaves a good huigan, good chachi. That's what I call power. And aggressiveness is more like the punch, the bitterness. And so these are just independent variables. You can have an aggressive tea which is not powerful. So for example, that Laumana cake, it's very aggressive, it's very bitter, and it's not so powerful. Well, it's not weak either, you know, it's still Laumana, it's really good material, but you could say it's medium powerful, high aggressiveness. While, I don't know, in that collection, what do I have? Like, I haven't released many soft teas. Yeah, Hokai. Hokai here is quite soft, I would say, but still pretty powerful, you know. Yeah, I think softer teas will come in the next release. Like I think of like Bangwai or Jingu in our collections. These are typically pretty powerful, but more powerful than they are aggressive. So could you make something like a starter box which would contain several samples to get a good idea of the range of teas you have on offer? I used to do a starter pack, but I just stopped doing it because I don't know, I feel that's just part of the purchasing experience to, you know, like do your own research. I feel like all the fun is in buying, is in like looking, studying what you're going to purchase, you know, so you can just read the descriptions and think about it and pick some samples. Maybe, yeah, I should do some starter packs, but I don't want to add too much bloat to the websites and have lots of complicated offerings. So it could be a good idea, you know, to make those starter packs. But in a way, it complicates the logistics because then I would have to make sure we have all the samples. Like, let's say, if one of the samples runs out, then we miss a sample for the starter pack. Sometimes it can get a bit complicated. I often get suggestions on what I should make on the website, like adding a wish list instead of the carts. But then I think, like, these websites feel so bloated then with lots of functions, and I don't know, I've never used that wish list stuff. So I'm not sure about the starter samples. I can see that it can be a good idea, but is it really worth adding the bloat? Are there any plans for more experimental teas with regards to processing or materials or anything else along the lines of black teas earlier? Well, typically I do experimental teas during the processing season. As I said during this live stream earlier on, I have this thing with the roasting of black tea. That would be an interesting experiment. And I guess Mr. Huang in Ailao Mountain has some roasting oolongs since he's set up his charcoal roasting room. So I will need to get in touch with him and see what he has on offer. Otherwise, experiments will be for later on with the autumn season, I think. Huh? So yeah, I did the experiment with the yellow tea, but again, I didn't have time to follow up with that experiment because I just took a handful of tea, which was just out of the rolling machine, and wrapped it in a paper, like just a paper for writing, and left it for like 1 or 2 days, and yeah, it smelled really, really strange, huh? Kind of like wet feet, you know, but still somehow interesting. And then I got busy and I didn't pursue the experiment, and I think I lost the sample, and yeah, so it didn't get done, that yellow tea. Maybe I will try again in autumn for this one. So what are my thoughts on the spring 2011 Mangjing cake? I must say I haven't had it in a long time. I think that was a nicely aged tea from Jingmai. Huh? So Mangjing is a village in Jingmai, and I will need to try it again because honestly I haven't tried it in a long time. And I don't think I have that many cakes left, but I'm not sure. So if I indicate, when do I indicate the tea does well in grandpa style? I think it depends on my mood when I write the tea descriptions. Generally, the less aggressive teas do better in grandpa style because if you over brew them, they are not so bitter, they just get thicker. So, and generally you want cheaper teas, you know, for grandpa style. So, like that Bang Wai small tree, or maybe even that Fajanghe would be fine. Of course, all the ripe Puerh are fine. The black teas are fine too. My favorite really when I drive, like when I go to Chiang Mai, so it's like a 3-hour drive, I just brew a thermos bottle of Oriental Beauty because you can smell the Oriental Beauty in the whole car. You know, you leave it open and it's so nice. And that Oriental Beauty, it's a bit like herbal tea, you know, it's not that strong, so you don't really get tea drunk. You can drink lots of it. But I don't mention the grandpa style systematically, not every time, so in the end it's up to you. I'd recommend a softer tea. So I think the teas we made, the black teas we made this year are really good. Before I received when I just came back from Chiang Mai from the tea processing season, wow, because I had so much tea, so much raw Puerh in Chiang Mai, so I couldn't handle it when I came back to Puerh, so I just kept drinking a lot of black tea, and I really enjoyed the black teas we made this year. And we've made quite a lot of black tea this year. I think I've got maybe 60, 70 kilo of black tea upstairs. So that will be good. I will, that's some good tea. I think better than last year. Maybe because mainly my wife made them this year, and I don't know, she's just a better tea maker than I am. So the black teas are really good. So we have a good stock of it. And yeah, so I think that will be it for today. Huh? So this is really fine, especially for the fragrance and also somehow the minerality in this tea. I'd like to compare it to the Mian we had this year. Now I had the Mian this afternoon, and yeah, the Mian this year is really good quality. It's almost like you know, like if you were dishonest, you could sell it as a gushu. I'm sure that would go fine in Chiang Mai, like to a big factory or something. So I'd say it's still more powerful than this one. But I'd like to compare it more thoroughly with the 2023 Fajanghe. And I remember last year that this tea wasn't at its best when it was young. It got much better after a couple of months of aging. So we'll see how this one ages. But theoretically, it's better gardens, slightly older tea trees, which were used for this one. Okay, so that ends this live stream session. I'm going to save it on YouTube, and so I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much to all the people who saw this video live, and to people who saw it in the future when it's saved on YouTube. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, and see you later. Bye bye.